Hi, my name is Luke Maria. I am the COO and president of SHR.
Hi, my name's Rob, and I'm the CEO of SHR.
So, Rob, in 2009, started SHR. What was the purpose?
Wanting to use technology to better people's lives. Um, but I think that idea came later in my life, so think like early 20s. The catalyst of it was, just very personal events that I think happened to a lot of people around me. 9/11 happened when I was in high school. Some of the things that I saw during that time period was almost like a feeling of hopelessness and, oh my gosh, this is happening. What do I need to do to help? I think that initially sort of pushed me into a call of service. And I really wanted to do everything I could to make the country healthier and safer as a nation. In college, I was on campus when the Virginia Tech shooting happened. It actually happened, in the building where I did IT work for the engineering department. From then, it just using technology to better people's lives, make them healthier, happier, that really ended up being, what I'll call my North Star and what was the catalyst of the business, starting.
As you were thinking about technology, how does safety come into play?
Technology is really there, as a value add to your life. If it's a value add to your life, you just have to be cognizant of, how you're using it, where technology is going, and ensure the things that you're, of course, doing with it are, ethical, moral, and safe. As it pertains to doing things safely with technology, it starts with educating yourself on the things that are changing, educating yourself on, what I'll call the new tech, and using it and learning how to use it and learning how to use it to your advantage, learning how to grow with it, versus just it sort of running off alongside you and you never touching it or getting used to it. The safer we are, on an individual level as well as a society, it's going to be born from that. Advocating for those technologies, integrating them and layering them into people's day-to-day lives and maximizing it fully so that they can get more out of their day as well.
You worked on site for different government customers. What did you experience, and how did that further shape SHR's vision, mission, and what you want new folks that are joining the company and the folks that are in the company today to understand and try to follow as much as possible.
As you work in one customer environment and then, transition from that customer environment to a new one, you'll notice that every customer environment from a technology standpoint is comprised of an IT portfolio. Well, inside that portfolio are, people, your human capital, it's processes, which is effectively how the human capital has decided to coordinate and collaborate. And then there's the actual tech, right? As you go from one portfolio to another, I think some of the things that you see are going to be similar. So think about inefficiencies you see in one customer, oftentimes it very much translates into another customer, even if those two federal customers have completely different purposes. Typically, the biggest differentiator on how well a certain segment of a portfolio performs, it's heavily dependent on human capital. It's heavily dependent on that human capital's exposure to new things, ability to learn, and knows how to use it deeply, then they can kind of it's almost like they can pivot into automating with whatever it is. And they get a little bit of more space and time back in their day. It allows the human capital to find the things that they weren't doing that improve the portfolio as a whole. It makes the portfolio more effective and it makes it more efficient, almost because they kind of walked away from this thing they used to manually do. They made it automated and understood it end to end. And in doing so, they got to, improve what they were doing every day and they improved the service that that IT portfolio is providing.
As you think about human capital, talk a little bit about what can SHR do to improve the culture that SHR brings with the innovation that we have to push into a government environment, and how do we work with our customers to ensure that these technologies are being deployed in an efficient and impactful manner.
I think some of it starts with making sure that the human capital that we provide to our customers aligns well with their portfolio, meaning the skill set mix and match makes sense for what they're looking for, and to also ensure that everyone in the company has what I would characterize as like foundational skill sets, meaning like no matter what position you have in an IT portfolio, the things that I want everyone to do well and the things that I want everyone to find very important, those are always kind of like a top of mind, right? So, knowing how to communicate with people, ensuring that you're being kind, right? Deploying those tactics when you're frustrated with someone or frustrated with something. Don't do things publicly. Make sure you're doing it privately. All those kind of like little nuances for ensuring that the folks that we provide to our customers don't just align well to advancing the mission of the customer, but also align well to these foundational values and skill sets that they expect from all SHR employees. So, Luke, can you talk a little bit about the importance of the team around you, and how you deal with that in your day to day today?
It's about having the right mix of team, right? And I like basketball, right? So think of the dream team, right? Everybody wasn't a high scorer, but everybody supported everybody else, and everybody pushed everybody else. And we constantly try to bring that mentality into how we execute work on a daily basis, and that has had an impact on who we hire, who does well in the company, who meshes with us, right? Everybody has to bring value, and everybody has to execute at a level where they're able to go home and be happy with what they did that day. And that's the expectation you have from me, I have from you, and we have from the entire team.
Can you talk a little bit about the small characteristics, the tiny things that you try to pull out of individuals, make sure they're paying attention to, in order for them to mesh well with the team?
We have a one team, one fight mentality, right? And that shows up every day. One good example to say is, even Michael Jordan had a coach, right? And there's a level of observation you can do from outside that doesn't happen, within a team on a customer environment. So part of this is us as a company being engaged with every customer effort we have. The folks in the back office are typically either working on site like you still do, right?
Yep.
Or we are engaged with our customers directly, whether it's FEMA or IRS or DISA or any other customer that we have. Our corporate team is also on calls, trying to figure out, how can we best help and engage with our team members. And then as we see things that need to be adjusted and fixed, we make what we call like micro adjustments, right? We always need daily reminders of how we can do things better, and we do that for each other the same way we do this for all of our team members.
With this high performing team mentality that you're talking about, the dream team,
Mhm.
on a per person basis, as far as our team members are concerned, how do we support them? And also at the same time, what do we expect of them?
There's a few things that go into this, right? One, the expectations I would assume are very clear at this point because they are consistently communicated. Being present, uh, being consistent, being collaborative, showing up and executing, taking ownership of a task, extreme ownership of a task where I want to feel like if I gave you a task that you owned and I worked on a different task, when I come back and you came back, we both took care of what we were supposed to take care of. And if we're not able to, we're communicating that with each other, right? And that is something that SHR brings that I feel is unique. When there is a issue that an employee runs into, they don't feel like they're in it by themselves. They reach out, they talk, they ask for help, and that's also the expectation we have from them. If you're running into a problem, a technical problem, say, and you've been working on it for 24 hours, it's time to call somebody else and get some other input, so you have another perspective on what is going on and potentially get some help in solving that problem. And there's a few different ways we help with that, right? We have our emerging tech directorate that is available to any team, any problem that's going on, technical problem that they're there to help with. We have our operations team, which is there to help with any people and process problems. And then we have queued up all sorts of training and testing that is available for our employees to continue to grow their personal skill sets. Even doing one-on-one sessions with our employees, which I know you do consistently. All of this goes to make SHR unique in the way it is, and sets us apart when we are working on site at customer locations because they see the value, and this has been consistent about SHR. They see us come in with a team of 5, 6 people and solve problems and accomplish tasks that, much larger teams have not been able to do. It's because we don't just build things, we build thinkers. We look at, systems design, systems thinking, first principles, and that's what we instill in our employees as they go and execute work on site.
As it pertains to building thinkers, in order to do that, there are some just general tactics we have to take as leaders of the business to ensure that we're creating the conditions to build thinkers as well as supporting those thinkers. Can you talk a little bit about, those steps that we try to take on a yearly basis, and also talk about how they're monitored and what they mean to, what I'll call the core of growing thinkers?
One of the unique initiatives that we took, just paying up front for training for employees, we invested $100,000. And many employees took us up on, and that allowed them to go and explore maybe a new topic area or technical expertise that they wouldn't otherwise do on a day to day basis, and that adds to a person's ability to understand new problems, new domains, and potentially provide solutions in the future. An employee that likes the domain they work in will generally do better. Sometimes employees are stuck in a job or are working a job that, typically would not be of interest to them after a few years, maybe, or something changed. There's new technology that came out. They're interested in that. This is a way for them to explore that new initiatives without money coming out of their pocket, and potentially help them step into a new role or a new domain that they wouldn't otherwise get a chance to do, and I think that adds a lot of value for an employee. It allows them to continue to grow in things that they're interested in.
In the industry segment that we exist in, change is sort of like constant, right?
Mhm.
There's always something new showing up into an IT portfolio, something new someone has to learn and how to utilize to accelerate a customer's mission. What do people need to do to educate themselves on what the new thing is without, of course, completely divorcing themselves from the tech they learned on?
Now you are combining human psychology on top of technology, right? And you go into a ecosystem, they have a technology stack that's deployed, and it seems to have a stickiness to it, right? Um, we assumed people will be in the cloud 100% by now. In the federal government, it hasn't happened. There's a lot of love for what somebody knows, right? And as a company, we try to allow folks to explore new avenues. And there's something I learned when we worked together was it's okay to make mistakes, right? There's a place and a space to make mistakes. And what we have done as a company is provide that to our employees through our labs, through our training, through conversations. And I think that gives a lot of value to somebody who works in the company because I think that is unique about SHR. A lot of cultures, corporate cultures or government agencies, when you walk into their environments and their ecosystems, there's still this requirement to get it right the first time. And I think there's good in that, but there's a lot of bad in that as well, right? It stifles innovation. Innovation doesn't happen the first time around. As a small business that is focused on accelerating missions, that innovation is very important. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that and to push for that, and
Yeah.
for having employees that look at technology in a way that it's a tool to accomplish something, and you can go many different paths to doing that. Uh, but them also understanding that our expectation is they take their time with it. They make some mistakes. They innovate. They learn. They explore. I think those are all important things for anybody to grow their career within the company. Having
Yeah,
that
definitely.
understanding. Yeah.
And just to reiterate, Not in production.
Non-production,
Right?
don't make changes in don't
Yeah.
make changes in production
The test
environments.
environments are there for a reason,
Yes,
right? Do all your
yes,
learning there, make your
100%.
mistakes there.
Yes.
When you go to production,
Follow the
of
change
course, mistakes,
process.
yeah, follow the change process. Of
Yeah,
course, mistakes are going to be made.
yeah,
Just make sure those mistakes are well documented,
yes,
right?
yes. Talk a little bit about your role and, what you do with employees on a day-to-day basis, right? There's a CEO, Rob, and then there's Rob,
Sure. So, I presume we're talking about just Rob, right?
just Rob.
Just
Technology
Rob. I'm
Rob.
very, very hands on. I'm very much a technologist at heart. Anytime I'm working with someone and showing them how something new works, or you know, uh, layering the cloud into sort of their day to day and how they solve problems, or how to use cloud native computing paradigms to also solve new problems, right? I think what I attempt to do, and this because this is personally hard for me, it's also something I always try to like impress upon our teammates, right? It it's hard not to demonize something that you used to do, right? Because there's this brand new shiny toy and you just want to use that and it's like the new thing to do. It's really cool. All the AI tools sort of fit into that category today, right? But I think what I try to explain to people is there's no utility in demonizing anything. So you don't need to demonize the thing you used to do. And at the same time, you don't want to put this new tool that you just started using on a pedestal. You kind of just want to respect everything equally. And in that respect of both future technologies, today technologies, and past technologies, in that respect, you'll find your answer to the problem. You'll find that you can grow as a person. You'll be able to accelerate a customer's mission and you'll be able to solve things faster. And you'll also be able to solve things that are existential problems because existential problems are sticky and they stay sticky in portfolios because of something in that portfolio that we're demonizing instead of respecting or something we're idolizing instead of respecting.
As you are working on site, it's you in your architect role, not your CEO role.
Sure.
Uh, you have a program manager that you report to,
I typically do, yes.
and then you also are the CEO,
Yeah.
when you're not on site.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about SHR's culture that allows that to happen.
I like to think of us as a meritocracy where, ideas win the day and everyone's perspective is it's equal, right? Everyone has a lot of value and I believe if you're operating from a position where things like kindness, how well you treat your teammates, if those are your north star, then everyone's vote counts, right? And when I report to a program manager specifically, the program manager, I can always tell, is just way better than me at a lot of things. And I make sure they, of course, know that. They hear that from me, and I respect the differences between myself and them and the thing I'm supposed to be doing for the program versus what they're doing for the program. I think in how we treat each other, I think that that level of meritocracy is what pushes the best ideas to the forefront. It also allows us to solve things together faster,
Mhm.
and it ensures when it comes to the team, if the CEO's reporting to the program manager, if the CEO is turning their timesheet in on time, and the program manager isn't running the CEO down, from my perspective, it ensures that like I'm being those values on the team. Everything that we say on our website, I'm acting as such, and people will see me do it in real time.
So we talked about meritocracy, and that being the cornerstone of how SHR operates. What are some other things on top of that that um, people should know about SHR?
What I'd want teammates to know is, you might show up to the team, you might show up to the company. This might be your first day, and let's say you're, a security analyst, like that's the role that you're in. But then, 6 months from now, you start learning a little bit about cloud engineering because it's, somewhat indirectly aligned to your role and it's things that you're exposed to on site that's interesting to you. We're going to encourage you to lean in to new things and things that you like. We're not going to encourage you to be a security analyst and stay in cybersecurity in perpetuity while you're in the business, right? So The company doesn't, like, define people right when they show up and label them in perpetuity into those roles. Uh, we wanna create the conditions where, you can move on to new things and you can learn new things. And we wanna give folks those exposure. I think in order to be a real meritocracy, you have to create the conditions where everyone understands that they can do that, and this is a safe company to do that at. No one's gonna, like, shame or judge you into staying in cybersecurity forever, right? If you come to them and you say, "Hey, I wanna try learning Kubernetes, and I wanna do this new engineering thing with it," right? Uh, Everyone's gonna go, "Okay, so, this is the path you follow," right? And there's a specific path for certain tenets of technology in an IT portfolio, but, most of those tenets are, they're flexible. That's what I feel like underpins our meritocracy, right? That level of flexibility.
So speaking of flexibility, with COVID, a lot of folks are now working remotely. We are, as a company, a remote first company, right?
Yeah.
Unless a government customer says you have to be on site, we promote remote work. How do you want people to act when they're at home working? And how does that tie back into meritocracy as we were speaking?
I mean, when I think about that, especially with remote work, because there's these concepts of like meeting sprawl and, keeping your calendar full, right? Because you're not like physically in the same room as whoever your, team leader is, for example. Because that's kind of like all out the window. I think some of the practices I would want people to have are like draw lines in the sand in your day kind of practices and have some level of consistency. Don't work while you're sitting at family dinner. Don't do that. Right? Like, physically and mentally separate those things. Some small tactics that I use, I don't have my phone with me, right? I don't have anything on me when I am present with my family, and then when I need to get to work and I need to roll up my sleeves, I got, like, 4 screens in my face, right? So creating that level of physical separation, I think, is important, and I also think it's hard, right? Because when you're working at home, it's difficult. Back when you used to commute every morning and every evening, to work, right? You'd get out of your house, you'd walk to your car, you'd drive your car to, a garage or a parking lot, you'd park, and then you'd walk into an office building. There's a certain level of like comfort with those things. So I would also encourage people to replicate that, not like don't get in your car and drive to an office, right? But, maybe, go outside and, walk with your kids or something or walk a dog. Let that be how you start your day. Mimic those kinds of movements, right? And the same thing goes with closing your day. And the best way to have those routines is you do have to draw hard lines in the sand. And if that means you have to, physically and logically disconnect from work, work's going to be there when you get back, right? Like, you don't have to answer that email right away. You don't have to call that person back right away. I know I practice this as much as I possibly can. If I call someone or I message them on Teams or I send them an email, it is not my expectation that they get back to me that day. If it's an emergency and it's really important, I'm usually calling a cell phone, as you would know. But other than that, people need to cut themselves off. And it doesn't matter who the message is coming from. The CEO emails you a question, the CEO emailed you because the CEO expects you to take your time.
Yeah.
Get back to me when you get back to me, right?
Yeah, and that speaks to one of the primary tenets of SHR, which is to be present in what you're doing, where you are, and that applies both ways, right? When
Yeah.
you're with your family, be with your family. When you're at work, be at work.
Exactly, exactly. And I think it's very difficult to be present, unless you remember that sometimes it's okay not to respond right away. Sometimes it's okay to go slow.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's good to just think about what you wanna say. It's not that big of a deal. It's definitely not as big of a deal as it is for you to get to dinner on time and be sitting with your family,
yeah,
right? That's gotta take precedence over all these other things.
yeah, and especially as we work in this domain of problem solving, we're engineers, and that's what we're passionate about. That break from work also helps you think in your subconscious, right? And
Oh,
and
yeah.
uh, you come back with new ideas, ideas that you wouldn't think through if you were sitting at your desk. and troubleshooting a problem for 3-4 hours straight.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah. My children give me a lot of inspiration and help me solve a lot of problems.
yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely get that. Can you talk a little bit about how the company aligns to accelerating the mission of our clients?
Whether it is taking uh, a ticket, right, at Virginia Tech, or building out a highly scalable automated cloud environment for FEMA, which may help somebody during a disaster get in touch with their family,
Yeah,
or allow someone file their taxes faster in,
yeah.
in a more easy way. Maybe they have a disability, right? All of these things, when you can help somebody solve a problem and you get to the core of what is going on, that touches on everything the company is built on and what is important to us, and it brings alignment to that. And what has really worked well is through SHR, we have also been able to find a lot of other employees who feel the same way and are interested in solving problems. And that continues to be the day one of the company that we try to instill in new employees as they're joining, and remind our existing employees and ourselves
Yeah.
that's what we are here to do.
Sometimes when you put yourself in your customer's shoes, that's where your best thinking is gonna be. That's how you're gonna solve problems. That's how you're gonna be able to go above and beyond, and that's how you're gonna be able to create, those conditions for success for these organizations.
Thank you for taking the time for watching this video today.
My name is Rob,
My name is Luke.
and thank you for choosing to be with SHR.